I'm Marion Emberson here for Wow, showing you a scribble flower. So the first thing you're going to need is some chipboard to do your stamping and embossing on. We're going to use some new stamps. These are the Sparkle and Shine from Marion Emberson, coming out this September. I'm going to use that diamond one at the bottom. And then we're going to use just my favourite one from Maya, the beautiful word. I just absolutely love that. We're going to need some paper flowers, just a couple of paper flowers, a foil tray and a peg, and that's for melting later. I'm using Paper Artsy Hint of Mint on this one, water spritzer bottle, some Pinflair glue, Versamark and a bit of cut and dry, and then baby wipes, definitely need baby wipes, a palette knife, and then we're going to use the new Silent Night that's coming out September, some green pearl, some ebony, and then not forgetting the Melt It as well. Okay, so let's get going. So the first thing we need is our chipboard, and I'm going to take a baby wipe and then take some of the Hint of Mint paint and just basically just rub it all over. So you can do these in lots of different colours. So I'm just showing a variation of the original one that I showed you at the front. So I'm just rubbing it all over, and then I'm just going to pat onto it, and you'll see why in a minute when I show you when it's dry. So I'm going to take my heat gun and just whiz through that. I've sped this up for you, but you can start seeing, can you see like a texture on there now? And that's just by sort of pushing that baby wipe into it. So that's like a really cool little technique there. It gives a nice look. So now what I want to do is just go around the edges with the Silent Night, but I'm not going to use the Versamark directly onto it because it will come out too heavy. So I'm going to take a piece of cut and dry and just brush it along, but I'm doing it very, very gently. It might look like I'm doing it quite hard, but I'm not. And then you're just going to pour your powder on. If you find that it's sort of heavier in places and you don't want it too heavy, just brush it off before you actually set it. It's you know, obviously easier to do it then. And then again, we're going to just heat set that. And the reason we want to heat set it before we do the next bit is because if the powder isn't set, when you go along and do this bit, it's going to pull the powder off. So it's always best to go along and heat set. You could actually do all 4 edges and then just heat set it in one go. So you're just putting the powder on once. So I'm just going to pour that back into the pot, and then we're just going to heat set that. Always put your lids back on your inks. And you'll notice that I know I've sped it up, but I don't move the gun around too much. Now I'm going to just take a water spritzer bottle and just flick bits of water on. Now this looks like it's going to come out really heavy, and you have options how you want to do this. I wanted to go for a lighter look, but at the moment it's going to look really heavy to you. But you just flick the water on, then tip the powder on, do it in the areas where you feel that you know you want it. But don't worry too much where it all looks quite sort of big and bulky, because when you heat set it, it depends on the surface of your base as to how porous it is, because that water is going to sink in quite quick. If we were using a dye-based ink, like a, you know, like a Heidi Swap Colour Shine, something like that, that's got a mica in there, that means it stays open longer. So look, you can see as I'm setting it, bits are flicking off, so I'm getting a very light look. If I wanted a heavier look, like the blue one here, I would just then add more, and I wouldn't leave it so long before heat setting. I would add it, put the powder on, heat set it straight away. That way it's not giving chance for the water to dry. Now I'm going to take one of the stamps from the new Sparkle and Shine set, and I'm using green pearl on this, so I'm just inking it up with Versamark, and I'm just going to randomly stamp it in a few places. I think about 4 places I'm going to stamp it in. And I've used green pearl because I've used Hint of Mint on the bottom, which has like obviously got a green hue to it, but green pearl is just, it's just going to bring out a little bit more of that green, so it sort of works with a contrast to it. It's just absolutely beautiful. I love using the pearls. And the pearls, obviously, if you use them with a black ink underneath or on a black cardstock as such, they will come out the colour that they say. So the green will come out actually as a green. I should have got some bits out and shown you. Just absolutely beautiful. So again, I've just sped up the heat setting for you so it's not so boring. But you can just see it there. It just gives a very fine shimmer and a pearlescence as well, which is nice. So it just adds to the background there. So next thing I'm going to do is take the beautiful stamp, and it's actually beautiful, ink it up with Versamark, and then I'm going to stamp it down. And make sure, because we're actually stamping over the top of embossing, really give it a nice firm push on there. The stamps are really good quality, so they can take that. And then put your ebony on there, shake off your excess. Always want to shake off your excess and then put that back in the pot. And then we're going to just heat set this one. And it really, this just shows you, it really doesn't matter that you're actually embossing over the top of embossing. It's not going to hurt it in any way. It doesn't really melt it. If you kept going, if you kept the gun on there, then it's not something we'd advise. But just doing something like this, it really doesn't matter. It's not going to affect it. And that just comes out absolutely lovely. So I'm just going to set that aside now. I'm going to work on our flowers. And I've got a really lovely chunky flower here, but I didn't want the middle bit. I only wanted the base, the two bottom bits. So I'm just pulling off that middle section, and then I'll be able to use that on another project later. So, you know, don't throw it away. But I just want this little base bit. And then I'm going to take the baby wipe that I used earlier and just brush it around the edges just to get a bit of that colour onto the flower, and it just sort of adds a bit more dimension on there for you. I should have mentioned all the time I'm working on a non-stick craft sheet as well. This is really important. You do need a non-stick craft sheet for this, and also a clean one. So as you've just seen there, I've just given it a little clean, because when we actually do the scribble flower, we're going to be pouring straight onto the sheet, so we want it nice and clean. So now I'm just taking my foil case and I've just made a little spout in there. I'm pouring some Melt It in there, and this is so that we can give like a glossy look to our smaller flower. And I'm heating from underneath. Now I've sped this up again so you haven't got to just sit and wait forever. The reason I'm using Melt It as opposed to Ultra High is because Melt It actually will melt quicker than Ultra High. I actually don't think I sped this one up, actually thinking about it. And I'll hold it in one position underneath until I see it start melting. And then I can move my gun around. And also I like to flick and move it around like you're seeing me doing there, because then the molten bit grabs it from underneath and that helps melt it quicker as well, basically. So when you've only got like a few bits there, like now, you can then put the heat on top. I want to get it nice and molten, so I'm just bringing it down to that pouring spout, and it's still lovely and molten. I'm just going to dip my flour in and let it drip for a little bit. This just looks beautiful on any paper flowers. In fact, I made one out of tissue the other day and did it with that. Very fragile, but absolutely beautiful. It's a very old technique, but it works. It looks really, really pretty. So I'm just going to set that aside and let that dry. And now I'm going to add some of my Silent Night to the already molten Melt It. Now, normally when we do melting like this, we always advise that you mix your colour, your Melt It and your coloured powder first. Obviously, I can't do that in this instance. So what I'm going to do is like turn it around as you see me doing there. But I'm also going to let the gun do the work. So I'm going to let the gun act as a stirrer for me. So I'm going to get that all nice and molten, and then I can put the gun on top. And now I'm just going to move that around, and if you look closely you can see parts of it that are still just the melted, so it's still clear, but I want to get that all mixed in so we get it all to be the same consistent colour. That's going nice now. So what's going to happen is, the nice thing about these things is if you do them and then you're not happy with them, the great thing about Melt It is you can just melt it again. If you don't like what you've done, let it set and then just pop it back in and do it again. So I'm just literally pouring and just turning it round in little circles. But you're going to see, just keep practicing. Just do these as little practice runs, because as I say, you're not going to have any waste. Because if you don't like them, which these ones I really don't like, so, but I'm not worried about it because I'm just going to throw it back in there and just remelt it all. So I'm going to let those set, and then as soon as they've set, I'm going to take a palette knife and then just lift them back up. You'll notice the flower's flipped over now, but that's absolutely fine because that sets really quick as well. So I'm just going to take a palette knife and then just lift them up and then pop them back in. And this is why it's important to work on a non-stick craft sheet, because if we'd have done this onto paper or something, then you'd never be able to do this. So that's the joy of these little things. And this is what I love about it, just remelting. You know us as crafters, we don't like to waste anything. So this time I haven't got a melt from underneath because it's already molten. I'm not going to have any powder flick anywhere. So I can just literally go in from the top and just get it all molten again. And as soon as it's all molten again, then I'm going to go and do my scribble flowers again. So you'll notice these are different to the first one I showed you at the beginning of the video. That was where I actually sort of like flicked it round in little circles, whereas this one I'm just doing like one big circle but sort of moving it around it. So we're getting two variations but from the same technique. It's just playing. I was playing with the idea of doing a red one and making like a poinsettia for Christmas. I thought that might be a bit too adventurous on video. I'll have a little go of it first before I do that. So you want to get yourself comfortable with it. You don't have to be too high up. Once you start, that's it, just start spinning it round and then come off. Don't feel that, you know, you've got to keep going. And then this one, I'm going to do this one slightly larger because I really like that other one, but I wanted a slightly bigger one for my little plaque. So we're going to let those set. This bit here is all real time, so it really doesn't take that long to set. It really is just a matter of like seconds or a minute. So I'm just going to snip off the back of that flower and then stick it down to my other one that I sort of tinted earlier, and I'm using pin flare glue to do this. And then I'll just give you a close-up on this flower. It looks so vintagey. It's absolutely beautiful. I love those. And then always replace your lid on your glue. I've always made that mistake. And then get my little frame together, have a little feel, and as soon as you know they feel done, just lift it up a little bit from one end and then go in from the other side and slide your palette knife under. I'm gonna pull both of them up and just see which one I like, but I know I'm gonna go for the larger one. I like that, but I'm going to keep that small one still, and I'm going to use that on a card. I think that will look very nice on a card. So again, I'm just going to use pin flare glue to stick the whole thing down. I could pop a little photo on there as well. I could put some other words, stamp other words on there. I just think it's a nice little gift to give and it's really quick and easy to do. And that's it, that's all stuck down now. So we've got some nice background design going on there, some nice border, lovely little scribble flower, which is so on trend at the moment. And there you go, there's your two different ones there. Thanks for watching. Bye.